what the fundamentals of our shorts and longs are, just to make sure everyone understands what we call the crossing, right? When something crosses, when we say something is topped or bottom. And normally what we're talking about when something crosses, we're normally talking about when it crosses at the top or the bottom, right? Because basically the way it's set up is RSIs are like this, right? And you can see right here. So here's your RSI. Let me stretch this out, right? So when the RSI is at the bottom and it's going up, it builds up a little bit of pressure here. And what it's doing is it's pushing the candles up, and how far they go up is based on volume, right? Which is kind of what that is, right? And I'll show you a little bit here, and we'll open both of these up here. And, you know, based on volume here, and you can see as the RSI goes up and the volume is going up, and this is low volume because it's negative, you can see there's not much of a push here. But what people are getting confused on here, and I just want to make sure that you understand when you hear things or what you're looking for, is when you see a crossing, right? We're looking for crossings that are up close to what we call the 100 line, right? Because that means that there's more room to come down. Now, in between these dotted lines, this is the 50 line, right? So when you're on a 1 hour, you want room for, for your coin to go up, or you want room for it to come down. Normally we're shorting, so we're always looking for the crossing to be as close as to the 1 hour, or the 100 line before it crosses and comes down, because that's what we're looking for. Sometimes it doesn't make it all the way. It might go to the 80 line, right, which is this perforated line, and then it might, turn down at that level, and it could head down at that level, right? So it could like come up here and then head down, right? It could come up to here and head down. It doesn't always have to hit this top area, but you can see here as we look at these areas, as it's pushing up, you can see that there's a push up on the coin. When it gets to the top, or it starts making its side move, you can see here that it causes it to come down, right? So right there. So when we say crossings, right, we're always looking for the crossing to be as high as possible, so that there's plenty of room heading down, that there's an area to make money. Okay, that's kind of what that is. So on the RSI, when we talk about crossings, you want the ones that are as highest to the point before they cross down. So that's kind of where we're at there. The volume, you want the ones, as they cross over and move up. This is just telling you how much money is coming in. So that's kind of like the direction of it, right? And then once the RSI gets to the top and it settles and it starts to come back down, then that pulls the volume down. So I noticed, I was talking the other day to Driven One, and he was calling out a crossing on the 1 hour, and it was at the bottom, right? It was already at the bottom of the RSI, and it was crossing down here, and he was thinking that was a pullback trade because it crossed over, right? He didn't understand that it needed to actually be up higher to cause a crossover, to create a room that it actually can have money, right? A space where it could go up and then come back down and actually create revenue on its way down, right? So that's what it is. So just wanted to clarify that and kind of go over like the ideals, right? So here we go. The RSI is moving up. You can see a little push. It comes back down. It crosses over. It pushes up again. It pushes up. And then it goes sideways here, right? So even though the coin is growing because the volume is still pushing up, there's a reset here with the 1 hour comes down, and then it comes back up, and then it gets pinned to the top. But the difference here is that, even though there's the only high as it can go is the 100 line as it goes across, that doesn't mean that the volume isn't pushing higher. So when you see the line up against the top and the volume is pushing, you're going to see bigger movements here. So even though right here, the 100, it's pinned against the 100, the volume is still growing, right? So as the orange line grows, you can see that it keeps going up, and then basically when it reaches its peak, it starts to come down and go flat, and then it resets, and then the RSI does a pullback, right? So these are pullbacks, right? Pulls back where the orange is coming down, the 1 hour RSI is coming down. See, this section here gives you the greatest possibility of a pullback, because that has a lot of, that actually has, built up momentum, or actually space for this to fall down. So when it falls down, it starts to come down here, you know, it creates that avenue here that it can do, right? So based on how it comes down and how it comes down here, right? Now, once it hits the floor and it crosses back up, it needs to build before it comes back down, which it did here, and creates another section where it's basically doing like a pullback type version, right? So that's the differences, guys. So when we talk about crossovers, make sure that you're understanding we're not talking about crossovers right at the bottom there. When you're talking about a pullback, you need the crossover to be up here. You need it to be taller. So for instance, here's a pullback trade where we get our RSI. It's not all the way at the top, but it crosses over, coming down, meaning there's room to come down. And then you can see right here with the orange crossing over, you get a 1 hour red moon. That creates this avenue here of this section that creates a pullback, right? And that's all these coming down from the top. So that's what we talk about crossing. We're talking about, and this is a crossing too, even though it's not all the way at the 100, it's still above the 20 line, right? You want it to be, you know, a good pullback is always above 50. And that's a you know, I would say like a C version pullback. Up here, the 80 is where you want to be close to, and the 100 is the ultimate zone you want to have. But when it's below the 20 down here, it's not considered, you know, it's still crossing over, but it doesn't fit the type of trade when we're talking about pullbacks. So notice how this pulls back, but it's not really that much. But then when it goes on its bigger run and creates room here up, it fills this area of profits, and then it comes down. You get a bigger pullback. And then what happens here, you notice that volume continues and then goes negative, right? And that creates that additional falling down. So even though here the RSI is pushing up, you can see it's starting to rally. The minute it crosses, right, it creates another opportunity to make money. But this is not a pullback trade, because that's the second leg of the trade. This one is the pullback trade. This is a second leg of a trade, right? It's a different type of trade. But I just wanted to cover like crossing, right? So guys, he thought he was doing a pullback trade, but the RSI was at the bottom when it crossed, right? Which is there's no volume in that. So it's the crossing at the top to the bottom. So that's how we play this. We play it up, we play it down, but you need to build momentum in order to have room to actually make money on the 1 hour and so forth. You need, you know, the higher it is, the better you are off at making money, guys. So I just wanted to cover that so you guys can, maybe that'll help you out when you're looking at things crossing and you don't realize it's not doing as much as it normally when other people do it. It's because it has to build space. We call it breathing when it bounces, but it has to build up an area to go back down to. Okay, guys. So I hope that helps you out, guys, when it comes to understanding the crossings, right? Where normally when we say something's crossing, it's normally because it's already at the top 100 and then it finally crosses down, because we want to have all that room to make as much profit as possible. All right, guys, have a great day. Good luck. God bless.